Welcome to Post-Traumatic Thriving, where we explore life's toughest issues, along with the art, science, and stories of resilience. Please be advised that our guests share their raw stories of addiction, abuse, crime, and tragedy, along with tips to survive and thrive. And now, here are our hosts, Dr.RandallBell and TanyaBrown.
Welcome back to Post-Traumatic Thriving. I am Dr.RandallBell, TanyaBrown, Wes Geer,
hey Wes,
the rock star, and we're going to part the clouds. We're going to ask you that question about the parting of the clouds. And I just took this priceless relic. This is Buck Owens' red, white, and blue Telecaster.
Buck Owens.
Yeah, check that out.
Let me check this out.
Who's Buck Owens?
He is Buck Owens. Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
I don't think it's in tune. It's been in.
Oh, come on. Listen. Hey, you guys, I am the best guitar player ever. Listen to this. This is my new song.
I hate to say it, but that sucks.
The guy gives me an out-tune guitar. The whole thing is, what you don't know is, he's like, no, I can't show you. We're going to do it later in the show. And he's going to whip out this guitar. It's going to be so exciting. And he gives me this. Wow, this is an amazing guitar.
I suck. I'm the one on meth and heroin. What am I thinking? But anyway, no, I have a
finger on a chalkboard here.
I have a Leo Fender collection. I'm a big fan of Leo Fender, and I just got that for the collection. I got Nancy Wilson's guitar too.
Wow. Now I know who she is. But who's Buck Owens?
Buck Owens. He was on Hee Haw. He was a huge country western.
Okay, I would know the face because I know he.
But that's my favorite of my collection because it's custom made and it's just.
I love the colors.
You know, Wes. You know who Buck Owens is, don't you?
Not in like great depth, but yeah, I know. I mean, all those guys in the day were like such shredders.
Yeah. But that's a player. You can see he got a lot of
doing
playing it. Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to do a concert, but okay.
Why not?
Ooh, nice. And you're all self-taught.
That's so cool.
That's crazy.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. Please tip your waiters and waitresses.
That's so cool.
Well, that is awesome. So I just
so retro.
That's cool.
I'm just into this stuff. If you can't play
How old is that?
Older than I think either one of us.
Yeah, 60s, early 60s.
Yeah, or maybe he was on Hee Haw back when I was a little kid, so I don't know.
That's like 20 years ago.
So let me ask you, the part of the clouds, what does that look like? Tell us
about it. Well, we're talking about battling addiction, and one of the coolest aspects, when I came into addiction, I like to say that I thought excuse me. All right, ready, cut.
It's all good.
When I came into addiction, I really had this attitude like, it's hard. You're losing what feels like your best friend. Mm-hmm. Kind of like an abusive relationship where you're like, I know I should break up with her. I love her so much, but she might be borderline personality disorder or whatever. There's those times you have to let go and it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. And that's kind of what addiction was like. But then the other thing was, I think there's so many parallels from a bad relationship. Let's say you give up your addiction or you give up that unhealthy partner, and then you still have a void in your life. Mm-hmm. You feel empty and alone. Like, what do I do with myself now? And my brain was like, well, you can't do music anymore, And even my brother told me that the job he gave me, he's like, oh, you went farther than most musicians. Just be content with that and come with me to this normal life. And I was like, that seems to logically make sense. I always tell people that for me, getting sober felt like a guy who comes back from war where you're like, Johnny, you made it. Yeah, I made it, but my legs are blown off. That's what I thought. I was going to have this horrible life. And I think for so many people getting sober, if they thought it was, rainbows, supermodels, and pots of gold, they'd probably run quicker into recovery. But it's just like, how's this going to be good? Which is insane. That's the insanity. It's like, so you're vomiting blood or you're in jail or what, all these bad things are happening. And you think that sobriety is going to suck? Because you don't go to get sober unless it's really, really bad. Mm-hmm. or you're really, really lucky and get out early, but most don't. So, the cool thing is we learn in recovery that my drink, like you were talking about self-medicating, my drinking and using was only a symptom, and then what I found is when I was without my booze, drugs, weed, whatever, and I had to sit with myself, that is terrifying, super uncomfortable, but also the most magical part. I like my dumb little metaphor. It's like being naked out in the cold rain. You know what I mean? It's like, this is cold, but this is also kind of rad. I'm just feeling it. I don't necessarily love it, but man, I'm feeling it,
Yeah. Enlightening.
Yeah. Enlightening. And yeah, probably some bears and stuff too. So, I got really excited about recovery right away, but keep in mind that I had ruled out music and I went back to my day job because my brother was like, okay, you passed the test. Well, you got your job back. And I was there for another few years and now I'm miserable. Again, Huntington Beach, we're opening up the bay doors. We got the ocean breezes. I can go walk right to the beach, but I'm just like, I do not belong here.
Yeah.
Well, where do you belong, Mr. Superman guy? I don't know. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, dude, where do you belong? I got no degree. I barely graduated high school. I got nothing, pushing 40 or something like that. And so this is when I got more into the spiritual aspect because now I'm living in AA and I learned never give up on AA. So when I went back to AA, I was like, what am I going to do different? I'm not going to stop doing my program, the spiritual program and everything, the daily reprieve, contingent based upon the maintenance of our spiritual maintenance. Anyhow. And I also knew I had to be more connected to the AA groups. I can't dip in and dip out. I got to be a part of the culture. So that was part of my, ethic moving forward. But I was going to meetings every day and I was learning that it's kind of safe for me in these meetings. It's almost like an easier way, and I would, how many meetings do I need now? I love going to a meeting every night after work, but I was also going, well, if you want to accomplish all this stuff, and I used to be a video game junkie on tour in the tour bus, and I would play Madden football now 5 hours a day. I'm like, dude, you're not going to get anywhere spending all your extra time. Yeah, exactly. So I quit that. And, I got really into being healthy and I became a runner and I started doing yoga. It's all stuff that I thought sounded cool, but I was never going to do, smoking a pack a day and all the drugs I did. So now I'm, running and yoga and gym and and quit the video games. But what was happening is going to AA and I was miserable in my job. And so many days, I wanted to go, fuck you, I quit. But I was like, okay, that's your ego. And then what? So, and I was also going to AA meetings and then I would hear people, this happen all the time. And, you whatever you're tuning to is what you'll find in the world. So I was very attuned to people and their careers. And I would hear these people come in and they'd go, oh my God, I got fired from my job. What am I going to do? I just can't believe it. What am I going to do? And then a week later they go, oh my God, I got a better job. I make more money. It's closer to home. I'm so happy. I go, fuck yeah, assholes. And I heard this over and over and over and over again.
Sounds like me.
I just be like, you dicks, I'm so annoyed. But I listened. And I believe. I'm a believer. Well, no, I don't like to believe. I had faith in the program because I saw it working. Belief, I think, is a scary word because it kind of means we don't look at other possibilities. We're like, I believe this, and that's what it is. I don't like to get too strong into that, but I had faith that I watched. This was true when I was watching, working in other people's lives. And at this point, if you're into AA and you've worked AA, you're now in the, 10, 11, 12 steps, which is improving your conscious contact with God, right? Admitting, not admitting when you're wrong, not letting all the drama and resentments build up, and also helping others. That's kind of where you're cycling, which is basically all the steps in one or in three. But here's the thing. I would go to the Sunday night meeting because I would go back to work on Mondays so depressed. And so the Sunday night meeting, they had this meditation meeting. It was an 11-step meeting, and we would read the 11th step in the big book, and it said, we start to develop this vital sixth sense. And that to me was huge. Sixth sense? What's that? That's something else. What's going on here? So I got really into meditation. And what was interesting too, out of desperation, I got into meditation, and I somehow got turned on to Wayne Dyer, and I started doing this Wayne Dyer's awe meditation for manifestation. I don't know who sent it to me, but if you haven't done it, If you haven't done it, I'm telling you, this shit has magic powers. Yeah, it's so great. Mm-hmm. So great.
Yeah. Well, while you're drinking that, I'll just tell you, first time I ever meditated in my life, I was sitting between 2 convicted murderers in San Quentin prison.
Yeah.
And they were the nicest guys you ever met. They had genuinely felt enormous remorse for their stupidity. Mm-hmm. And the stuff works. Yeah. And it's so simple. And just in the office over here, we got 12 studies out of Harvard saying they can actually measure the brain and the healthy areas of the brain that physically grow as a result of meditation. Yeah. So,
and there's different forms. There's TM, there's sitting meditation. I mean, meditation can be just like going down to the beach and putting your feet in the sand. It's just, it's being one with God, whatever your God is, whoever that is for you.
Yeah. It's many things. Mm-hmm. It's like trying to explain, and we'll get into it, music and what music does. We don't friggin' know. Humans, don't get me started. Humans have the ego brain, which makes us think we understand stuff. And so often it closes us off because we think we know. Or science says, fuck science. Science is just trying to prove again and again what we know to be true. And sometimes it doesn't do it. Or then when it does it later, it goes, oops, we had it wrong. It's now this. Okay. So these people that put all their faith in science, it's like the big grand container is the universe or the multiverse, right? Because there are multiverses because we've sound and frequency and all that. The point is like, and then to say my container is science. Science can only prove a small portion of the universe. So you're saying your container is the proven part when science is like, we don't even know what antimatter is, and antimatter is 70% of the universe. And that's what your faith is in? Don't get me started. So meditation is like for these studies, it's like Joe Dispenza, if you haven't checked him out, he goes into all sorts of stuff. I believe there's a spirit realm. Let me see.
He's a quantum physicist, right?
I don't know. I can't say yes that he is or not. I know he's a doctor, and I know he does insane, there's that chair again. He has this insane studies and brain mapping and all these different angles he comes at meditation. Mm-hmm. Let me just go back to my story. So the Wayne Dyer on meditation, you imagine the energy coming out, going up through your root chakra, which is, what frat boys would call your taint, and it comes up and through out your third eye. And so you envision whatever it is you want. Could be serenity, could be whatever, answers, I need a new career. And you focus on it, meditate, feel it. It's a 20-minute meditation that if you put out links, we could put a link to people. And you do and you imagine, and then he'll take you through it. Do passion ones, quiet ones, Anyhow, I started doing this. Every time I looked at the clock, it was 111, 222, 323. I'm like, what is this stuff? My friend's like, you're spiritually aligned. I'm like, I don't know, whatever you're talking about. But every time I look at the clock, this is weird, and that's just my experience. So then I'm like, I feel like my brother's gonna fire you. Well, why would he? You guys never fight. You get along great. Why would he ever fire you? But I kept having this thought. Then I was like, I need $10,000 to start this new business, right? And then I had this obsessive thought that I feel like I'm supposed to travel with some rich guy and help him stay sober. I'm sober now. I've traveled the world. And I was like, what is that thought? That's so random, but I kept having it. Well, out of nowhere, my brother fires me one day because I was in the toilet too long. And I'm like, Zach shits for a half hour. I'm healthy. I was out in 7 minutes. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. We get in a fight. He fires me. Not long after that, out of nowhere, Head gets a check for $10,000, exactly the amount I wanted. And Head hadn't got checks like that for years. I've been out of the band for many years. And what happened was T-Pain had a song called Bartender that was huge. And his bartender money went in our song called Bartender's Kitty. And the way it works is if they can't unravel it, which sometimes they can't, then you get to keep it. So out of nowhere, I got a check for $10,000, which was exactly what I was meditating on. And then my friend, now I'm a week or so fired from my brother's job. My friend, she's going, you better beg your job back, homie. You got nothing. What are you going to do? I'm like, no, this feels right because these alignments are happening. Sure enough, my friend goes, I'm in Hong Kong. Will you fly out? I'm getting chills right now. I need you to help me stay sober on this business trip. He's a rich playboy. And I was like, sure, you got to cover my expenses. I'm getting chills. All these things lined up. It's like I was having premonitions. So then now I'm fired and I'm trying to start this business that never got off the ground with my $10,000. I'm running out of money. And then I'm like, watching shows, people play shows, and I'm like, it was painful for me to watch guitar players on stage. And I'm talking like low level ones. And I was like, I'm not done playing, man. This isn't ego. I got to play. I haven't now played for 6 years with anybody, just maybe in my house screwing around. So I started meditating. I want to get back into music. Yeah. And I was like, it better not be some shitty band. I'm not getting in a van. I'm like 40 years old. It better be a good fucking band. I want to get back into music. Out of nowhere. I'm not kidding you. This is what I'm thinking and awing my brains out. Within 10 days of that meditation, Korn texts me out of nowhere. I haven't seen them in a dozen years. And we're like, you want to come play guitar with us? I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
I'm activating my app.
So now, yeah. So now I'm like, hey, that thing that happened with the AAs has now happened to me. I got the best job of my life. But this is that part we talked about before, and I don't know how you splice this together, but the thing I talked about before is I analyzed the people who had careers I really envied. They had some raw talent, that luck came their way. Maybe they made their own luck, whatever, putting themselves in a place of opportunity, and then they blew it up, meaning they went above and beyond to just take that opportunity to the next level. So Korn had a guitar player in the band at this point who was drinking really heavily. They pulled their one guy had left. He had been out a couple of years. They had a rotating door of guitar players running amok. They had a guy in there that they pulled right out of like Berkeley or something, like just this insane shredder, but he didn't really get Korn, you know what I mean? And so the one other guitar player, Monkey, was not a fan. And meanwhile, this guy's drinking himself to death. He's brand new alcoholic, like not even like long-term, like. So he's lying, saying he's not drinking. He never toured before. They're hearing bottles clank around in the bunk. I'm trying to get in the band. I don't have the gig yet. It's offered to me from Monkey, the guitar player. So I would go see him at shows. And what happened is my name came up years ago. By the way, this is a funny thing I don't normally share. Years ago when Brian, the original guy, left like 7 years prior, my phone blew up. Dude, you're the perfect guy for that job. You'd probably get it. And, it was weird because I was like, I had a dream he was going to leave the band, which was so random. Why would I have that dream? Funny, weird little shit that happens. Mm-hmm. I didn't get the gig then, years prior, because they're like, what about Wes? And they're like, that guy's a maniac. Hell no. So I was known for being a wacky partier guy. So,
if you don't mind me asking, was the kind of the word out that you had cleaned up? Is that why?
So now my name comes up again, and they're like, no. He's like, no. Wes is a couple years sober now. Oh, okay. So now they're going on tours, and tours last a month or two usually. You put out a record, and you might tour for like a year or two, depending on the record. But usually the segments of tours are, a few weeks, maybe 8 weeks at the most usually. So I'm watching them come into town, they're leaving. And I'm like, damn it, how do I get in there? And so I'm also trying to make nice with Monkey and just hang out when they come in town backstage. I'm like, dude, what's up? He's like, well, I want you, but Jonathan likes the guy we have now. I'm like, okay. I had some friends on the inside. They're like, you got to get Monkey to jam with you. Now, Monkey would say, you're one of my favorite guitar players, because he knew the Head PE days. We played clubs together. But Jonathan and them, they just, the way bands are funny animals. Well, they're just like families. They're like businesses. They don't talk. They don't communicate in ways you think they might. And so this is what happened. I felt like the time was running out where I'm not going to get this gig. Months have gone on. Monkey wants me in. He's like, well, Jonathan's the boss, but and I was like, oh, okay. So I thought of these people that had the success in life. Now I realized the stoner me, people go, what's up with the Korn gig, dude? And I was like, I don't know, man. They haven't called me. I thought, yeah, that's such a stoner version. I don't know, man. They call me. I don't know what's up with that. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take myself recording every song that they're playing on their live set. And I'm going to fly myself out with the last of my money to a small market area, meaning like if you're a band and you go to like New York or LA, it's a big market. So all the labels and everybody's there. So I was like, I'm going to go to like North Carolina and some shithole places, no offense, where there's not a lot of people, and try to get some FaceTime. My friend Don V, who's best friends with Fieldy, he's like, dude, you got to get Monkey to jam with you. And So that's what I did. So check this out. I flew my ass out there and I made it so I would stay for a few shows. And the agenda was to jam with Monkey, and I was trying to make this happen. So Monkey's like, okay, yeah, cool, we can jam. We'll jam. Come meet me at my bus like 6 p.m. when I come back from the hotel. I'm there at 6. He's not there. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And I'm soon going to have to go home and not have this gig, almost giving up. And then this little segment, I mess up the chronology a little bit, but it's something like this. But check this out. So I go to talk to Jonathan Davis, the singer, because I know we got to get him on board. And I walk up to his tour bus and his assistant's there, and I was like, hey man, I got to talk to Jonathan Davis or JD. And then he goes, okay, hold on, let me get him. Of course he comes out. Jonathan's busy. I'm like, okay. And I start walking away. And this is like, if it was in a movie, it'd be too cheesy. But I literally turn around, head down, and I remembered the saying I heard. Your success will be determined by how many uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have. And I turned around, just like in a movie, like, hey. And
that's
I said,
a refrigerator magnet right there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I turned around and I went to Chris, his PA, and I go, no, man, I flew out here. I want to talk to Jonathan. Go get him. And that's not like me. I'm like, and Korn's an intimidating animal, if you will. They were of all the ethos. Like a Foo Fighters, you might be like, hey, Dave Grohl's gonna be like, yeah, what's up, buddy? Korn was like, I was like, no, go get Jonathan. Jonathan comes out and I'm like, dude.
Good for you.
I know how to play all your stuff. Oh, you do? It's like, yeah, of course I made the CD, passed it out. The hardest thing to get any band to do is listen to a CD. Trust me, ironically enough. I go, I know all these songs. I know. He goes, you do? I go, yeah, man. I was like, put me in the game, coach. I'm ready. He's like, oh, okay. And I went to Monkey and we sat down and jammed and just a couple guitars in the back of his bus. And he's like, wow, you really know this stuff. Yeah. And so the big agenda was like, we had to talk to JD. I was like, I talked to JD. He's like, you did? I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. And I remember being so pumped up as we drove in the bus to the next city. Like I facilitated this happening by going above and beyond and blowing it up, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes, okay, Monkey says, I just got to talk to John and figure out when we want to insert you. And he told me the next gigs they have coming up. And I remember the next night was my last night there, and we're at a shed, the outdoor amphitheater, and I'm back, like we were talking about earlier, all the tour buses and semis and trucks, and I see Monkey and Jonathan right behind the backstage, curtain or whatever, talking. And it's like, oh, maybe he's talking to him about me right now. And I'm like, no, they're about to go on stage. They're probably like, hey, how's your day, dude? Sure enough, after that show, Monkey goes, I talked to Jonathan and we're going to insert you right before George Lopez show, which is when we get home. And that's how I got the gig. But I had to fly myself out there, put myself out there. I almost got denied. Monkey almost didn't show up. I had to be like, Monkey, come on, dude, let's jam. And then Jonathan, dude, I have to talk to you and not take denial. Yeah. If I didn't do all that stuff, I wouldn't have got that gig. And when I got that gig, Monkey was like, damn, dude, I got to say one thing. You were persistent. Yeah. And that's how I got it. I could have there's so many versions of right in life. I could have easily been right in saying, I don't know, man. They never got to me. That was really fucked up. I kept asking them and then I never got the gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that would have been right and true and I could play the victim. So I went out there and made it happen.
You hustled.
That's beautiful. That's just being assertive. Yeah. Tenacity.
Yeah, exactly. Tenacity. But you saw an opportunity, a possibility, and you said, okay, I'm going to get it on my horse.
I went above and beyond for that shit. And then, so they inserted me, and then I did that one show. It was just one song on cable TV. And then the next thing is they flew me out to Poland, Romania, and something else. And we did a little 3-run gig so they could test me in an off market and see if this guy sucks or not. And let me tell you, playing sober, because people used to ask me, Wes, you have stage fright? And I was like, no. Well, yeah, because I was half schnockered on Jack and Cokes every time I took the stage. And it was my band, meaning like our band. If I fucked up, who cares? Get him next time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tom Brady throws 4 interceptions in the game. He's like, he's still going to be Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. You're the new guy in town, the touted rookie, you throw 4 INTs and like, I don't know. Are we benching this guy? You know what I mean? Especially when you're a legendary rock band where they could just replace me in an instant. It was terrifying. And here's the other thing. Those guys, when I had the gig, they're like, okay, let's go jam. We played 5 songs, Me, Monkey, and Ray the drummer, no bass player, no Jonathan. Like intro, verse, chorus, bridge, done. Intro, verse, meaning like right when you get to the bridge, that's when the change-ups happen. We basically played the easy part of the song. It's good. Next song. I got to jam like 5 songs halfway through over an hour. And next thing you know, I got flown to Poland to play for 25,000 people, an hour and a half set. I've never jammed with the band. And then I remember after the performance, Fieldy, the bass player, goes, hey man, I think you're playing that wrong. I was like, oh, you fucking think so? Like, how about help the guy out over here?
I'm the rookie.
You know what I mean? Like nobody taught me a shit. I learned on my own. Anyhow, it just was a weird animal. So that's the Korn gig. And I got to tour them, couple few years.
Where was this in relationship to when Korn played Woodstock?
It was that would have been several years after that, because I think the Woodstock was 99. I was still with Head PE until 2003, and I got sober the first time in 2004 and sober the second time in 2007, and I got the Korn gig end of 2009, I want to say.
Okay.
I was about 2 years sober the second time when I got the Korn gig and started flying around the world. And, people say, was that hard? No, I have a program of recovery that has society, community around the world. I went to meetings in Hong Kong, in England. I went to a meeting in Australia. Matter of fact, on my 3rd birthday, we were playing with Guns N' Roses in Australia. We were in Perth, and I went scuba diving on my day off. I took a chip in Perth at a meeting in Perth, and then I went scuba diving, and on my 3rd birthday, remember, I thought music was over, my life is over. I was in an underground cave on my knees under the ocean, my favorite happy spot, holding up my 3-year chip going, sobriety is fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know what I mean? I'm playing with fucking Guns N' Roses,
That's incredible.
And it's back to the thing that I love to press with people is that sobriety, if you're doing abstinence, like you're just going to quit, okay, that's abstinence. And maybe that's all you need to do. For most people, sobriety means recovery. And what recovery means, getting back to the truest getting back to your truest realized self, which means working through the trauma, working through the anxiety, working through the resentments, through the fears, all that, and becoming more and more whole and empowered every day. So what I always tell people is that, if you started getting loaded like I did at 14, the world has never seen what a fully realized Wes Geer could be. And I don't think that addicts, alcoholics get that. If you've been getting loaded your whole life, you've never seen what you can truly be, period. And when you apply something like a 12-step program, which is about never stopping personal evaluation and personal growth and the assistance of other people in that, then it's limitless. And that's really what it is. And again, the 11th step is to continually improve our conscious contact with God as you understand God, whatever it is, and try to grow that part of you. And that, back to the 11th step meeting, the sixth sense has been incredible. I mean, I literally started having premonitions and direction and stuff like that. And that's the part that gets me so excited. So the next chapter is when the Korn gig's going to go away. And they're starting to reconcile with their first original guitar player, who's such an important part of the band, kind of like Slash coming back to Guns N' Roses. Mm-hmm. You could do it without him. It's just not the same. Mm-hmm. So I was happy about that, but I saw the writing on the wall and figured, as I started, so there was this show, Carolina Rebellion, where happened to be Korn with me, and then Brian Head Welch, his band was playing the side stage. So the Korn's tour manager was trying to get them to talk, and they went in the tour bus and talked after 7 years, the 2 guitar players, because there was some real hurt there from what I understand. And so then I thought, my days are numbered. And so I went to Jonathan. I said, dude, if you guys we're not getting back together. I'm like, just tell me if you are, so I can plan for a new career. Meanwhile, Jens, the German tour manager, in his lack of humor, used to say, oh, soon you will be in the unemployment line. Ha, 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 ha. And I'd be like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Seriously. And I'm not even kidding. This happened a lot on tour. Ha, 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 ha. And someday I'd laugh it off, and other days I'd just be like, I'm going to fucking smack you. And so now I'm, the gig's going to clearly go away, and they're starting to do pickup gigs with Brian, the original guitar player. And I knew if you're a promoter and you got Korn Classic or new Korn, which one are you going to book? You're like, I'll wait for Korn Classic to be back in the market. So I knew it was going to be over. And I learned from head PE that like you have to have a backup plan. You have to be working on a side hustle. So the whole time with Korn, I was like,
Plan
okay.
B.
So this is the next part I love to share of my story, which is like I was falling into self-pity, like, because when I got the Korn gig, when I finally landed it, I cried like a baby. I was in some Starbucks in like North Carolina, like, this is it. This is recovery. I've worked so hard as a musician. I finally got the gig of a lifetime, and, but now I was losing it. Mm. And so I wanted to fall into self-pity. Why me? Why me? Why me? And then I went, what do you do? Back to prayer and meditation. Okay. Look, God did not put me here to suffer in eternal, suffering. Mm-hmm. So if I'm clearly supposed to be sober and I clearly feel I'm supposed to be a musician, and I went to what was taught in the big book, you can pray for yourself if others are to be helped. I guess I'm lucky that some of these little sayings stick in my head. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, then if I'm not supposed to be here to suffer my whole life and I'm clear musician, clearly need to be sober, how do I help people and make a living? And I did my meditations just like I did. And the idea came to me remembering my time in rehab. 22 guys. You're like, that guy's cool. Fuck that guy. That guy's a weirdo. He's burning pages of the Bible in a trash can. And I would break out my guitar and just hit one simple campfire chord, which, by the way, as a musician who likes to be artistic, campfire chords do not impress me, but I could hit the most boring little D chord and change the energy in the room, and I could feel that. Mm-hmm. And I would like go bing, bang, 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 do some silly little country riff, and everybody would come together. Didn't matter who liked who, we all would just start doing country dances. That stuck with me. So I came up with the idea of Rock to Recovery. And the idea was to bring music into treatment centers. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I just figured I'd try to write songs with people, like not knowing anything. And this is a testament to people out there doing businesses who want to get it all right and this and that. It's like, no, just go test your cookies. You don't just get a ugly cookie out the door and in people's mouths and see how they respond to it, And I pitched this idea around for like 8 months. And I would tell people and they'd go, that sounds great. Cool. You want to hire me? No. And that's what happened until I got down to the last house on the block, an old guy I used to party with who I knew owned a treatment center at this point. And I pitched him the idea. He goes, I love it. And he goes, you know what? It's probably not going to be very pretty at first, but no matter what, I'm not going to fire you. And I said, all right, great. And he goes, we want you to start in 2 weeks. And I was terrified. And I thought, I don't even know what the hell I'm going to do. And then my brother, the smart brother who drops dimes on me once in a while, he's like, you're going to write a song with a bunch of people. You're going to write a song with a bunch of people in treatment who don't know how to play. It's hard enough to write with a band because everybody's like, I want my idea. He's like, I was like, shut up. Don't sing. So I took a time. Yeah. And he's a very smart entrepreneurial guy. And I took a time out and then I watched this TED Talk just by luck. It's a famous one. It's on the why. Basically, the concept being in traditional sales, people are like, oh, you want apples? I got apples. Buy my apples. Buy my apples. But in Apple, they would talk about like, well, if you want to combine your music and your photos and this and that, we've got a computer that does that. So you sell people on the why rather than just the product. Mm-hmm. So that invigorated me and gave me the confidence to go in the treatment center and just say why I'm here. I'm here because I've been in rehab just like you. And if you're going to be in treatment in groups all day, shouldn't music be part of that? Yeah, we think it should. Great. I have no idea what we're about to do, but let's do it together and figure out how to do this music program.
Wow.
Awesome. Music is so healing, and it's a universal language.
Yeah.
It does bring people together. It really does.
Do you know the term sympathetic resonance? Mm-mm. I learned it from a guy from Boston, the band Boston.
Oh, okay.
And what it is it's basically when you have a room full of bells, no pun intended, because my last name is Bell, but you got a room full of bells and you ring one, the other bells that are in sync or in harmony will start resonating because of the vibrations hitting them that are on the same frequency. And it's the same thing with people. And that's what you're kind of doing is when you're telling your story, I'm thinking that's sympathetic resonance. There's, you're connecting with people in a way that other things just don't work.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about what you're up to. So what does a program look like today with Rock to Recovery?
So now we have, I think, 17 people, and we do 600 sessions a month, 8,000 sessions a year. We've worked with hundreds of treatment programs. The idea of the model is to be able to offer music as an ancillary service, like they bring in yoga people from the outside. So treatment centers can add music to their treatment curriculum. So we're integrated as the regular part of the treatment curriculum while they're in treatment. We also have a nonprofit that I created, actually started as a nonprofit on 12/12/12. I founded it. And that way we can give away the music services to state funded or other programs that can't, like nonprofits that can't afford something cool like what we do. But yeah, it's so many things. Like, again, the human mind just cannot so often conceive of how many different elements something is, like meditation on how many levels it's impacting us. Okay, a brain study. What about the spirit? What about the guides? I have spirit guides that give me downloads of information that I know doesn't come from me. It goes on and on. And with music, it's like sometimes we'd pitch a treatment center, they'd be like, oh yeah, it's fun. I'm like, okay. You're also going to get people who are so scared to learn the bass part when we're teaching them in front of 12 other people. They're going to want to say fuck you and run out of the room. It's also challenging. It's so many things. It's cathartic. But what happens, especially in the treatment setting, when you're stuck, you come in, for example, and you're like shame and guilt, and I've destroyed my life, and ownership, and talk to your therapist, and don't do this, and abide by our rules, and da-da-da-da. You have no release. Music is the ultimate drug at that point.
Yeah.
And I heard somebody say recently, dose, because we would say this, but I didn't hear the acronym dose. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. That's what's released when you play music.
Yeah.
When you listen to music, it lights up half of your brain. How magical is listening to music? It lights up half of your brain. When you play music, it's unique in the way that it lights up your entire brain. Yeah. And so what it does is it helps people release oxytocin, which is the love molecule. They say the opposite of addiction is connection. So we're helping people feel connected. We're working together as a group. We take non-musicians, and in one session, an hour or two, we'll write, teach them how to play, perform, and record a song that we all create together. So I watched people come in physically dope sick. They can't sleep. They're defecating themselves. They're suicidal. And by the end of a session, they're like, hey, you going to be here next week?
So cool.
What do you call that clinically? Measures of wellness. We're changing from hopelessness to hope. It goes on the multiple levels of how this helps people. And it's not the be all end all of treatment. It isn't. But the way treatment works in anything, whether a wounded warrior, mental health, or addiction, is we have to have a multi-pronged, multifaceted approach because we don't know what's going to work for people. Right. But what we do know is our music program gets people more excited about their treatment and more hopeful for the future than they are without it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you're processing 6, 7, 8 hours a day, 7 days a week in some of these treatment centers, so to have somebody like you come in, or someone like Brandon Lee who does art therapy, not art therapy like in its main form, like he has art studios with paint, and I mean, it's acrylics. I mean, it brings something different out. It's still therapeutic, but it's not heavy processing because you're tired. Come Sunday, you're tired, but you still got to do something. So it's a nice break.
Yeah.
That you offer.
Thanks. Yeah. We have to have in this approach, we have to have just many different flavors. You know what I mean? It's a hard thing to go through. So, the mission statement of Rock to Recovery is to help proliferate the use of playing music as a healing and transformative force in the world. And that's what we're doing. But same thing with meditation. We don't have any clue the power of music. It's just really insane. Ask any layperson, what do you think? Oh, music's magical, right? Why are we not using more? well, I mean, not to go off on a political diatribe, but well, there's no money in it for pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's one reason. And it's also hard to quantify, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? I've got, it's such an incredible story. And if you got time, I'd like to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to kind of dissect what you're doing because there's so much brilliance in it. And what your point about, you know, it's like baking a cake. You just don't do it with flour or water or the sugar or the chocolate. You know, you got to have all the right ingredients. And that's kind of what I'm hearing narrated through your story is that you're bringing, whether consciously or subconsciously, all these ingredients together where you're reaching people that nothing else will reach them. Yeah. And because you bring the street cred, you bring the actual lived experience of the addiction from 14, you know, and then you bring the, I know you don't like being called a rock star, but you bring that to the table. So again, more street cred. And then, you're finding a passion that's helping people, and there's no better high, I think personally. So when we come back, I want to kind of dissect that a little bit, if that's okay.
That's great.
Good. Yeah, this is amazing.
Thanks for supporting our podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on your favorite social media. For books, merchandise, or to donate, visit CoreIQ.com. Post-Traumatic Thriving is produced by CoreIQ, a nonprofit with a mission to teach the life skills we all need but are not taught in school. CoreIQ and the Post-Traumatic Thriving podcast are for informational purposes only and do not provide medical or mental health advice. Always consult with your licensed medical and mental health care providers.